Quansheng UV-K5, unboxing, first look, some tests and flashing of the egzumer firmware.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Now, if you've been following some of my posts, you'll know I've bought something from Moonraker, Quansheng UV-K5. Now, this box is a bit big for that, I think. But this is the box that came from Moonraker. This box is getting reused for shipping something else as soon as I can, assuming it's going to fit in this box. And this fragile tape might be actually of some use for when I reship this other non-radio related item. Hopefully, if this box survives what I'm about to do to it, which is open it up with a safety cutter. Oh. Yeah, they've really gone to town with packing this because we don't need the big box on the desk anymore. Because I've now managed to get to what we need to get to, which is in fact that. So hopefully this is the right device. It does say UV-K5 on the side, look. So it says on there 5 watts. 447, 136 to 174, but it does say UK on there. I wonder if that's to do with the charger. Soon find out. So, first thing it comes with is user manual, although if you change the firmware in that, that's going to make absolutely no blind bit of difference to read. You're just going to get as confused with it as you would anyway, unless it's in good English. I don't know, I haven't looked at that yet. I'd say it actually is in good English. I've not heard any reports on the user manuals of these, because most people buy these and then put the firmware in them. Yeah, we'll come back to the user manual. I might not need it. Okay, so we've got the radio itself. That's it there. Looks metal chassis, I like that. Analog. To be honest, I expect it to be an analog radio. And it does say 5 watts on there. And it's got the things for FCC, CE, UKCA. Doesn't necessarily mean it is approved to those standards, but, you know, it should be. Should be fine. It does say in here 400 to 470, 136 to 174, so it suggests wideband transmit, although that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Battery, which they do say to charge this. It says the battery is 7.2 volts, 1600 milliamp hours. And the battery, I'm guessing, goes on. Oop, trying to drop it. The battery goes on down there. Clicks on. Does it click on like that? Or does it click on another way? Ah, no, that's not how you put the battery on. It goes on the top and then down. So, looks like it's got space for a belt clip there. So that's the radio with the battery now on. Keeps focusing on other things. So let's pop that to one side momentarily, because I want to look at the rest of the things in the box. We've got... oh. Alright. That plug's a bit dubious. That's coming off. This plug is illegal. Alright, so one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that plug from this. I don't have any spare plugs lying around. At least I don't think I do anyway. But this plug isn't legal, no fuse in it. Yeah. So I think Moonraker might need to have a word with their suppliers about that. The charger itself says it's universal input voltage, 110 to 240 volts, 50 to 60 hertz. I'll see if you can see that. I'm a bit shocked it's got an illegal plug on it. But that's something I'm going to rectify. I'm going to go out and buy a plug. Because I know where I can get a plug from. And we're going to fit the plug on camera. Oh. But I'm definitely not plugging that in. But that's the drop-in charger, so I'm not plugging that plug in. We have an antenna. I don't know why it came with that dubious plug on the charger though. You'd think from a UK supplier it wouldn't come with that. So SMA female on there, so it's an SMA male on the radio. Belt clip. Absolutely have to have a belt clip. And it just slides onto the battery and then you know the rest. And absolutely have to have a lanyard as well, so these Chinese radios do. First thoughts, very impressed by it, but a little concerned that as supplied it's come with an illegal plug on the charger. So really are going to have to do something about that. So I'm going to put the antenna onto the radio now, because obviously I do not want to blow it up. I mean, it probably shouldn't, but you know. Because we're going to do some tests with it in the other room shortly. Okay. So there's the radio.
Welcome, channel mode 1.
So it's got a full battery now, that's good. That's good news.
1 7 1 6 1
Okay. So
1 3.
it's in channel mode, so I need to put it into VFO mode. I'm not actually sure how you go about doing that. So I actually just unboxed this.
Menu.
Looks like you do it in the menu. It's just standard menu, same as you get in the Baofengs and very similar. Although this is somewhat better than the Baofengs. I'm going to hazard a guess WX is a NOAA weather reception that you can use in the United States if you're ever over there. Yeah, usual functions. I'm not going to go through all of these because somebody somewhere has probably already done it. Because I'm only interested in switching this into... Yeah, I can't actually find the way to put it into VFO mode. There probably is a way of doing it.
Welch.
Oh, I don't want to do that.
Cancel. Cancel.
Yeah, we will cancel, thank you.
1
Oh, there we are. It's number 3.
3.
Oh, try and go into the menu again.
Menu.
Just transmit power in there. So I think you press and hold that.
Power.
This is going to be fun because I've got to explore this radio.
Cancel.
Shut up. Stop talking to me. Silly radio. It's got a silly voice on it. I can't turn that off.
3.
Hang on. Is there a shift button on here? Yes, there is. There's an F button in the bottom corner. So, if I cancel that.
Frequency mode.
That's more like it. Frequency mode. So, I'm going to test this.
6 0 0 6.
Oh, well, it hasn't quite gone on to there. Yeah, it's wide-banded. Because that transmitted on 446.00. Well, not quite 446.00625, but it is wide-banded. It's not restricted to the UK or US or whatever. Well, actually, that would be considered US 70 centimetres. Right, we get there in the end. We're fiddling with that. Now, that plug on that charger, I really have to deal with. So, first of all, we'll go over to the computer and see if this thing will work with CHIRP. I think it's supposed to. I do have a cable somewhere. So, I'll have another look at the radio before we do that. So, on the side, oh, if I can get that off, we have the standard Kenwood connector. And below that, we have a USB port that should be... Oops, trying to press anything. USB Type-C. So, all is not lost with regards to that charger. Because if I'm not too much mistaken, that USB-C connector should charge this. So all is not lost. Can charge it with a mobile phone charger, but I will change that plug on that drop-in charger just for the sake of it. Because to be honest, that's a bit naughty of them to ship that. But overall, so far so good. That's the only letdown. So let's go into the other room and see how it's performing on its stock firmware. Okay, so we're in the other room now. And I've hooked the Quansheng up to... Oh, what's going on with that at the moment? The test equipment. I'm going to try to be gentle bringing this into shot. It's a bit delicate how it's set up. There we go. Now, in order to do with that, I've had to connect the speaker mic, which is a little bit annoying. Bring that all back into focus. Okay, is that going to behave itself? I think it is. So, having a look at the manual. They've tested the sensitivity at 12 decibels cyanide, which is what we're aiming for here. Now they say 136 through to 173.9975, the sensitivity should be negative 123 dBm. Let's see, shall we? Now there are adapters in this, so this might skew the reading a bit. So first things first, I need to turn the tone on. There we go. And the next thing I need to do is I need to press the button so I can change that. Now we're on 145 megahertz. We'll check in 77s very shortly. So I'll just check I'm on the right one first. Yep. So I'm now going to knock that down until it reads 12 on the cyanide meter, which is a cyanidalizer by Noxyman. Well worth the investment. Okay, so we want 12 decibel cyanide. Back a bit. We just check this is connected properly because this has been suffering some connection problems lately. Not sure whether it's the cable or something else, so we could try that again because I want to get a clean reading off this. But I highly doubt it's what they say in the manual. Well, as soon as I do that, it jumps because I've got some connection issues. Which is why I'm trying to be very, very careful here. Yeah, I'll try that with a different cable, see if that makes a difference. Okay, so I've changed the cable over. Let's put that back to a full signal. So start back at full signal. I'll just adjust the volume slightly. Okay, let's back it off. See if it lives up to expectations. I'm not sure. I did have a dry joint issue in this the other day, which I thought I'd rectified. I'm not sure if I have or not because I'm having the same problem. It could be the adapter though. There we go. Let's try that again. Because this is a different cable entirely to what I had on it before. You know what? When it stabilises, Yeah. Let me just double check all the connections. Okay, I've tried reconnecting it. Let's see if that makes a difference. $105, $110, $115, $120. Oh yeah. The manual tallies up about right according to my instruments. Although I think this could stand to be in a metal case rather than this stupid plastic one that it's in, because that's not good for RF stuff. I might look into that. It doesn't seem too far off the mark. It keeps wavering up and down, but I think that might be the dodgy connection. So I'll have a look at that. But I'm still hearing that quite well. Right down to... That's not so bad. So that's as low as it goes. But yeah, I'm hearing that. So it's not far off the manual. Okay, so now time to do the transmitter tests. So I don't need the speaker for that. Turn that off. Just to err on the side of caution while I disconnect the speaker mic. We'll go back to 145500. And I'll turn this. Right, so I've confirmed the squelch, so let's come out of that. So now we're going to check the power with a power meter. Now, the power meter needs a dummy load on it. To get the dummy load onto the power meter I want to use, which is the cross needle power meter. There. Cross needle power meters, trying to get my words out. Because, well, as a target one can measure power, it can only do it between 26 and 30 megs. And we're measuring power at 145 megahertz. Now, on this meter, there's not a lot of room for the dummy load on the back, and I'll show you that actually. And it kind of scrubs against the case. I'm going to replace this meter sometime. Maybe one of the Avare ones, or I've got to make sure it's also in the right mode. It needs to be in low power mode, because we're not going to be measuring more than 5 watts, which it claims. And we're also going to measure whether it's on frequency or not. I'm not sure how we're going to do that with this frequency counter, apart from maybe just change this over to the B input, which is one we need for these frequencies. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can get this into shot once I find the other end of the cable, which has still got a BNC adapter on it, which I don't need. So I'm going to try and get that into shot. Whoop. The radio's kind of hanging off the bench, not so good. Okay, we're on. Let's bring that back up. Whoop. This wasn't planned or rehearsed or anything. So there's the power meter. I'm going to try and zoom in on that, because that's the bit we're interested in first. Because I obviously want you guys to see that. It's a cross needle power meter. Now, it's supposed to do 5 volts. Whether it does or not is a different matter. Check out all the connections are made. Getting no reading here. That's not good. Okay, so I'm getting no reading, so I'll just pause and check the connections. Right, I've changed the cable back over to the one I suspected might be faulty, so that cable I've used has gone open circuit. And I'm not 100% sure as to why. Maybe when the radio fell off the desk, that might have damaged it. So I've got the meter there, as you can see. I have tested this off camera, but it might be worth showing you guys what's going on here. So, turn the radio on.
Welcome. Frequency mode.
For some reason we're on 145,500, so 145. 1450, probably better. And somewhere between 2 and 3 watts on high power for VHF. I'm getting on this. Might be losses in the adapters. Okay, so on transmit power, there's a mid setting. So this is obviously a this seems to be a tri-power radio, interestingly enough. That one is between 1 and 2 watts according to this meter. So that's the mid power. I'm not really showing you guys this. Really should be. Okay, let's try that again. So this is the low power setting, which is also not far off a watt. So just above, between a watt and 2 watts. So there's not much difference between the 3 power levels on here according to my measurements. So next thing we need to look at is the frequency that this thing's actually transmitting on, and we'll have a UHF is probably not going to be much difference, and there'll be a bit more loss in that cable. So we'll go over to the frequency counter next. I've changed the gating time on that. I'm just hoping it's configured correctly. Let's see. Okay, it isn't. So let's see. There we go. You might not be able to see that because that's there. So we're on 145 megs. There's wires in the way, so you guys can't actually see what I can see. Put that up there for the minute. 145.002, 145. It's about on frequency. Yeah, about the same, and the power levels are definitely lower on UHF than VHF because I've still got the meter plugged in, and this is on high power. It's between about 1.5 watts, it says on my meter, but it might be more, it might be less, because there might be losses in this cable. Anyway, next job. Let's plug this into a computer and do some programming.
Okay, so go to the programming of the radio now. I've done some already off camera, so I've got Chirp running. So what we need to do is download from the radio, check that you're on the right serial controller because there's 2 plugged into this computer, and you can see there's cable plugged into there. It's a standard programming cable. It's an older one. It's based on the Prolific, well, it's a fake Prolific chip because Windows has a hissy fit with it, and it's vendor Quansheng UV-K5. Press OK. It'll come up with this. Press OK again. It'll download from the radio. And there you go. And you can see the entry I've added is this repeater at the bottom, which is actually GB3IR, so I'm going to change the name of that if I can. There we go. And I'm going to press upload to radio. Now I've made that change. And it's now uploading to the radio. And once that's done, the radio should restart. So I'm bringing the radio into the camera. Not sure if it's in focus or not, because I don't know what the picture-in-picture is looking like, because I can't actually see it. So that's the radio restarted. So it's just the same as any Baofeng, Wouxun, whatever radio you happen to program with Chirp. I've got a Retivis radio in another room, which I believe is also Chirp compatible. And if you obviously don't want to keep hold of that, you can close that off. We'll cancel that, because you can go into the settings as well. You can change some settings in here. including what the program keys do, DTMF settings, which we don't need, scan lists, unlock settings, so you can unlock various frequencies, so this will let you transmit anywhere, more or less where you want. The scrambler is also enabled. We don't use a scrambler in amateur radio, that's illegal. So I've got an FM radio section. So it does have an FM radio, but I'm not going into that, because who uses an FM radio on these things anyway? And we're going to flash the firmware. So here's what you need to do. So here's the radio. Turn radio off. Press PTT. Turn radio back on. Release PTT. And as you can see, the flashlights come on, but the display is showing nothing. That's the important part. So I'm going to put that back down on the desk. So we're going to go to flash with a browser for the exzumer release 0.22 firmware. Flash firmware. Says that's paired already, so connect. And hopefully this should work. Okay, it hasn't worked. It says unusual error occurred. So we'll give it another go, find out what's going on there. Nope, it's still going with that. So the radio is in the bootloader mode, but it's not liking this very much. So that could be down to my cable. Well, the first thing we're going to look at is the dubious charger that came with this. I'm going to turn that radio off, because for whatever reason it just simply is not programming the firmware. That was a mouthful of my tea. So I've just made a cup of tea, and we're going to come back to this a little bit later on. Hopefully it'll work.
Okay, having watched enough bigclivedotcom videos to sink a battleship here, I think it's time we looked at the electrical separation of this charger, because it's got a very dubious plug on it. So I'm going to open it up. And I'm going to open it up on camera, and I'm going to change that plug if it's even safe. But if it's not safe, then I probably won't actually change the plug. Yes, voiding the warranty. I do not have a clue what's inside this thing. I'm a bit dubious about it because it's got a dubious plug on the end. Which obviously, I don't think Moonraker were aware of that, to be honest. But, you know, they weren't aware, they weren't aware. But the suggestion for them is to supply these, the radios, with a USB-C cable. So it'd be so much better than supplying it with whatever the hell's in here. It's the first time I've opened up one of these drop-in chargers, and I'm hoping it'll be the last. Because I obviously don't want to plug in a drop-in charger with a dubious plug like that on it. And I might give that cable a check as well, just in case it's the really nasty stuff. Right, so that's opened, and here's our innards. Let's zoom in on that. So that's our innards. So it's usual switch mode power supply. Switch mode chip, I'm guessing is that. Looks like we've scrubbed the number off it. So obviously don't want people to know what they're using in there. That's just a rectifier. LED to tell that it's charged. Various tiny little components in there. Sort of thing that if you're a bit old, then you've got bad eyesight, especially if you're like me and you've got bad eyesight. I've got to try and get this board out, if I can get this board out. I don't know if I can, whether they've soldered the thing in situ or what they've done with it, because I want to see the other side. And that's especially important because there's things on the other side that need to be looked at. And okay, I've got one side off. Let's see if I can get the other side off. There we go. And that's what's on the other side. So this is the other side of the board. Guessing that's the transformer. Some capacitors on there. Now I'd half expect there to be a class Y between the primary and the secondary on that, because if it is a switch mode, I'm not seeing that. Now I'm going to try and work out what side of the board is which. That'll probably be the main side there with the rectifiers. That's the secondary side up there. Comes a bit close there, but let's bring it in. That's a little bit close. I don't have a ruler to hand to measure that. So that's the line of isolation there between the primary and the secondary. There is no class Y suppression capacitor, which I would expect in a switch mode. So those are your two little battery contacts there. It's just a single-sided board really, and what they've done is they've just tacked surface mount components on the other side. Could be possible to convert that to run off a different voltage, but I don't actually know what the voltage is set to on the output. So I don't know if it's possible to just dispense with the main side. Yes, I thought I'd have a nosy in there. Made an effort, I can get my finger through that gap. I'll put a little hole there, which I'm guessing is for anti-tracking. Yeah, it looks like they've made some kind of effort to keep the primary and the secondary separated. But I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. I'm not sure I want to plug this in. I'm going to try and reassemble this. Yeah, I'm not sure I want to plug that in, to be honest. Especially if the flex is possibly made out of that awful stuff that they normally make cheapy Chinese flexes out of, which is a copper coated aluminium, which is pretty bad for starting fires. Just make sure that's sat in there all the way, and the two little prongs aren't quite through the casing, which is slightly annoying. I mean, it's not like I'm going to properly use it, but you know, I'm going to use USB-C to charge this thing up with. I will put that one to the test to see if USB-C will work. I'm going to zoom back out now. So I don't think I will be using that charger. I will put a plug on it that's compliant if I decide I am going to use it, but I'm not sure I want to be honest. I'm not 100% convinced it's safe. But to be honest, it's come from a UK supplier, so it should be safe. If I had my calipers or a ruler, I'd be able to measure the separation distance, because they'd be at the narrowest point. Let's see if I can get this cable back in here. I'm not sure how the cable went in actually. It's just working out how the cable went in. I think it went in like that. Yeah, it's kind of gone in, but the metal contacts thing there is still not quite right. There you go. Getting both of those through there. Yeah, I'll reassemble that off camera because it's just not reassembling properly. If I even decide to use it. And if this does charge off USB-C, then that will be very, very good, because it does have a USB-C port in it. I've got another data cable we can use. Because down here, I saw it earlier, I have another cable, but I'm not sure what's in it. It might be a Prolific, I don't know. It came with the KG-UV6D. Because I was having difficulty with the original cable that I was using. So let's try this cable. This is the one that came with the KG-UV6D. So we're going to try that. So it's that one. And would you look at that? That cable actually works. We are now flashing the firmware.
Do excuse the strobing. I wasn't actually expecting it to do that. Successfully flashed firmware. That's now got the new firmware on it. So everything will be slightly different menu-wise now. Disconnect that. Let's get rid of that. So we've now flashed the firmware after some trial and error. Got beeping, which is okay. Might gain. Let's see if we can bring this in so you can see it. Got usual settings that the radio comes with. But it's not got that voice anymore, which I suppose is good. So it's currently in dual VFO mode. I don't know how you take it out of that anyway. That's its function. No. I don't know how you do that. But, well, there we go. It's got a battery percentage on it now as well, which is actually much better than what it was. So that's the Quansheng UV-K5. I'm not going to go too much into depth on this radio, because I think I've done pretty much a lot of in-depth on it. Good little radio, slightly dubious charger. Chargeable via USB-C. I don't have a USB-C cable to hand at the moment that I could test that with. But there is a USB-C port on the side of it, so I'm going to hazard a guess you can charge it that way rather than use the dubious charger that came with it. And now it's got the firmware on it, it's got some extra functions. So I'm going to have a play about with those off camera. So I've been doing a little bit of research, this is slightly out of focus, for this firmware that I've just flashed onto here. There is a comprehensive website and manual. It's on GitHub. So to get into the hidden menu, which allows you to get to some other frequencies, press PTT and side button. To change those frequencies, what you need to do, let's go out of that, is you've got an option to transmit 500, 350 enable, transmit on 350 megahertz, transmit on 500 megs, transmit again on, so it's receive and transmit on 350 there, transmit on 200. The 200 bits not really of much use. In fact, none of those frequencies will be much use anyway, because this radio's filtering will be mainly for the frequencies it's supplied to do. But otherwise, most of the other settings in here are pretty much what you'd expect. The battery voltage, so it says it's 7.96 volts. So you've got a couple of other things in here as well that you wouldn't otherwise have. So I'm just going to come off that now. I'm going to test this to make sure that it's still working as it should. So I need to put it into memory mode. So press and hold that one. So that's now on the local repeater. I'll make sure it's doing what it's meant to be doing. Mike 0, Whiskey November, uniform, checking access to IR. And that's a resounding no. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. But I will check the programming in Chirp appropriately. Now we've got a cable that will work properly. So let's see if this will still work with Chirp. It should do. And with a bit of luck, that should be the end of the video. So it's been going on a while now. And so I want that one.
It's downloading from the radio, and there we go. Let's try changing that to tone rather than tone squelch. And let's upload that back to the radio. There we go. Let's try that again. Mike 0, Whiskey November uniform, checking access to IR. And it gives you a proper little signal meter as well. I like that. So that's good. It's a proper little signal meter. Anyway, so that's my look at the Quansheng K5, UV-K5. I like it. I'm going to have a proper play with it now. It's a decent firmware on it, rather than the stock firmware, because this one tells me the battery percentage and everything. And, most importantly, test out the one feature I've not actually tested out yet. I know there is actually a USB-C cable somewhere around here. Well, there was one. And there it is. See if it will charge off USB-C. Now, I don't know where the USB-C cable is actually. I did have one, because I do have one that I keep around here to connect the camera to the computer, but it doesn't seem to be here at the moment. I'll have to find out where that's got to. Because obviously I need to get the video off the camera and onto the computer. Anyway, 7.3 for now, and I'll hopefully catch you in the next one.